A very good evening to all of you, and it's a pleasure to have you join us today. I am Rudrashish from MMA and your host. I welcome you all to a very interesting fireside chat on the two common buzzwords in digital advertising: audience targeting and programmatic. Experts from the industry who are on the panel today will elaborate on what differentiates commerce audiences from other audiences and algorithm-based buying. The key takeaways for the audience today will be to understand about improving a brand's performance with a better understanding of the synergy between right audience and right algorithms. But before we dive more into it, let me share a little about MMA and its purpose as a global not-for-profit trade body through a very crisp video.
Welcome to MMA Global. MMA Global is a not-for-profit global trade body enabling pioneering marketeers to architect the future of marketing. MMA's mission is to enable marketeers to drive innovation, enduring business value, and stronger consumer engagement in an increasingly dynamic and connected world. Our strategic priorities are inspire and educate, enhance capability, measurement and growth frameworks, and advocacy. MMA is governed by an august and experienced board across markets in North America, LATAM, EMEA, and APAC, and is present in 15 countries. We are a 800+ members strong community globally. Let's now look at our global think tanks. Now let's take a look at MMA India footprints. MMA India's member network comprises of organizations from across the ecosystem, being true to its philosophy of collaborating with all stakeholders to drive adoption at scale. Taking a look at the MMA India AMP community, which stands for Accelerating Modern Marketing Practices, is the perfect mix of industry experts and opinion leaders who have joined forces to further accelerate and evangelize modern marketing capabilities and know-how through councils and work streams. Now let's understand why become a member of MMA. Our programs and membership has remarkable benefits and privileges. Here are some of them. Join MMA India councils and drive industry growth by taking part in the development and execution of their charters. Access gated content on MMA's website. Leverage and participate in events to educate, evangelize, and network. Lead industry discussions and get recognized for your thought leadership. Contribute and author industry reports, white papers, and share POV as well as case studies in our newsletters. Also publish your company news or research, etc. on the MMA website. And there is more to MMA India membership. Become a pre-screener or jury at Smarties Awards, a global awards lineage platform. Be a part of our training programs as faculty or student. In an environment as dynamic as ours, having a partner by your side is essential to your success. And for that, MMA is your go-to industry partner. Don't miss the MMA India must-download industry toolkits which can help ensure business success. To know more, visit www.mmaglobal.com. Email us at mmeindia@.
The link to this video is also available on the chat window in case you want to view the same. So now it's time to get a view from experts. However, before that, some quick pointers on audience engagement on my next slide. I'll pause here a bit and let the audience read through it about some do's and don'ts. on audience engagement. Okay, with that, I'm delighted to have with us experts to share their views on today's topic. So without further ado, let me open the stage for our speakers and moderator. Our speakers are Taranjeet Singh, Managing Director, South APAC Criteo, and Sudarshan Sarma, Senior Director, Monetization at Flipkart. And the session is being moderated by Radhika Sengupta, from Associate Director at Flipkart. So with that, Radhika, I will request you to take over, and I'll leave the floor to take the lead from here for this discussion.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Before we all take a break for Diwali, we thought it's a good time to plant a few thoughts in everyone's minds about how this season and how advertising this festive season has gone, right? And what you can probably do differently. You've seen the topic of today's session. It's about programmatic. It's not a new word. Most of you know what programmatic is. Most of you are probably at different stages of your evolution of programmatic advertising, right? Audience targeting is not new either. And audience targeting has been around for a while. Both are buzzwords that have been used by every article, every conversation we've had with most digital publishers as well as media planners. But the landscape has changed since they became buzzwords. In the past few years, not only have the number of digital consumers in India gone up, and when I say consumers, I mean, consumers of content, but all of our digital netizens have evolved. Today, digital for most of us who are on this webinar is not just about reading news or chatting with another person, right? Sure, conversation is part of what we do and it's integral to our digital experience. But there's a lot more that's happening out there, which means that if I have to reach you as a consumer, right, or a brand manager has to reach me as a consumer or potential consumer for their brand, targeting has needed to get sharper. Targeting has needed to become even more relevant, right? A spray and pray approach doesn't work, not for you, not for me. To understand where this is headed, as commerce is growing as part of our consumption life stages, what does it mean, right? How are algorithms also making the most of this evolution? What are we headed towards? Today, if I have to be a digital planner who's on point in trying to get my targeting right, in trying to make programmatic really work for me, not just by using the right algorithm, but making it work in a way that works, that's the conversation we're going to have today. And kind enough to make time for this conversation is Taranjeet Singh. Taran is the Managing Director for South APAC at Criteo. Thank you for joining us today, Taran.
Thank you, Radhika. No, thank you for the invite and thank you for having me over. It's a pleasure being here today.
And we are hoping to make the most of this time we get with you. Joining Taran in this conversation is my colleague, Sudarshan, who's a senior director at Flipkart Ads and who leads some of the most interesting new products and interesting categories that we're trying to bring on board with Flipkart advertising. So welcome to both of you. And thank you for being here, Sudarshan.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So let's get started, right? And let's go a little deeper than just saying what is programmatic, but to where do you think we're headed? So Sudarshan, I want to start with you. Audience targeting is not new. It's been available for the longest possible time in digital advertising. Now that you work at Flipkart, right? And now that you don't just buy on commerce, but also help brands advertise using commerce advertising. What's changed? I mean, what really is happening with commerce audiences and targeting using them?
Oh, absolutely. No, so Radhika, I mean, change is the only constant, right? And I want to pick up a small thing that you mentioned earlier when you were doing the introduction. And that's basically brands don't want to spray and pray anymore, right? They want to keep getting more and more targeted. What's interesting is what was highly specific targeting in the past is today's spray and pray. Right. And we need to understand that when it comes to commerce advertising, and, we'll be obviously talking about the partnership that we have with Criteo on the product performance ads as well. Any advertising that a brand does, right? If we were to look at it, to put it simplistically at the bottom of the funnel, you are either redirecting consumers to a marketplace, right? Or you're redirecting them to your own brand.com. right? Now, if I was to ask you which user is most likely to convert, somebody who has already transacted in a marketplace or somebody who probably we don't have data about, what would you say? It's obvious that someone who has already transacted will be the more relevant user, right? Or the relevant customer. And I think that's where we want to focus a brand's energies into building maybe upper funnel relevance, into building lower funnel transaction. Right. So this brings in much higher efficiencies. And what's interesting is commerce advertising. We've seen tremendous evolution, not just in terms of capabilities, but in terms of spends as well, right, over the last few years. What started off as a small part of the overall media mix is now fairly significant, right? We're doing some amazing work with very large brands, right across CPG, auto, financial services, etc. So definitely a lot has changed. We're able to provide you with very relevant targeting based on a person's actual spend, not propensity to spend, but actual spend that you have done on the platform. Why is this incredibly relevant? It's because Flipkart today is around a 200 million monthly active user base, right? People spend a large amount of time on the platform. People also transact on the platform, right? And hence, I think that is a very, very good mix of signals for us to actually figure out who's relevant, who's not for a brand, and start getting more and more specific to a particular cohort that is bound to give you results at the end of it.
And I'm going to pin you a little on this, Sudarshan.
Sure.
Does sharper targeting, right? Does better targeting, does more relevant targeting. Am I going to trade off as a media planner? Do I trade off on the size of the segment? Is it still addressable? Is it still going to be worth my money and the effort it takes to build and reach out to these cohorts?
Oh, absolutely. So let me try and narrow it down, right? So basically, sharper cohorts necessarily does not mean smaller audiences. What it means is getting more action-oriented results from a bunch of people who I'm targeting, right? Users. The first thing that I think every media planner needs to do, and probably does, is obviously fix up that particular outcome, right? Which they want that campaign to deliver. So if it's upper funnel, for instance, right, I don't think we're asking people to go incredibly narrow in upper funnel, because it's more about driving an awareness, driving a consideration, right? However, we strongly believe that anything that's done at the upper funnel has to yield results at some stage further down the funnel, right? And hence commerce advertising can work across the entire piece. So as I said, not necessarily a smaller audience to target, but you know what? I don't think that's a bad thing as well, as long as your audiences are still of a healthy size and the systems are able to deliver at scale. It's just that even if I can give a brand a smaller audience, I think it's the actions that that audience takes which is more relevant rather than the absolute size. Right. So I think there is definitely a fix and outcome, and we'll help you figure out those audiences. But there doesn't have to be a compromise between scale and performance, if I'm getting my signals right.
Interesting. Taran, moving to you. So at Criteo, you work with different types of audience sets, right? I mean, in addition, and we'll talk about your partnership with us, but you work with different types of signals. The algorithm is built to deliver against all types of signals, against all types of audience sets, and so on. So can you share your perspective and experience working with these kinds of audience sets, right? And what do you think differentiates commerce audiences from other types of audiences in your experience?
Sure. So, Radhika, great question. I think one thing which I want to highlight is, I think I start with the premise that advertising dollars follow audiences. And we're seeing a massive rise and increase in adoption of commerce abilities or transactions online, especially post-COVID. It's only accelerated this, and this is the new norm. Now, if audiences are on commerce platforms, like today, what we're also seeing signals is that today basic searches on products actually happen on e-com platforms, and that's only increasing. The power of commerce audiences is that it's not interest-based, it's not based on some social demographics, it's actually intent-based data. And like at Criteo, we look at about 120 plus signals of intent to build the right cohorts, the right audience sets for advertisers, for brands, for marketers to actually get the maximum impact for their advertising dollar being spent. It's performance driven, but like Sudarshan pointed out, it's actually runs through the funnel. So whether you're looking at upper funnel, whether you're looking at mid funnel metrics or lower funnel, this audience has the ability to actually drive that impact for advertising dollar. From a technology point of view, understanding this audience, it's really important to figure out how do you get really hyper personalized and delivering the right message at the right time. And that's where, the algorithms, the machine learnings, the AI come into place in terms of helping brands reach the right audience at the right time.
Interesting. So I'm going to then go a little deeper into that. So we've been talking audiences and the value of audiences. So how does a balance then come about, between the tech powering this? Because I mean, all of us, have this question saying how much tech, how much audiences? Is it a choice? Is it a combination? I mean, I know there's no silver bullet, but we're all waiting for it. But what is your perspective again, right? In terms of the right balance or the right way to look at it? When do you put the horse before the cart?
I think the fundamental thing is, brands and marketers want to reach audiences. So that's your foundation of terms of, running a campaign. Like the partnership which we have with Flipkart, Flipkart has extremely valuable audiences because those are people who are coming in, transacting and buying, right? It's a very premium cohort and a very discerning, desirable audience for any marketer to reach out to. In the moment when they're in a zone of transacting, purchasing, exploring new products, this is the right time to reach out to them. What technology does is help you deliver the right message at the right time. And especially Criteo, we work across the open internet. We help build the right reach and frequency to a particular audience, deliver the right message through our DCO plus capabilities, which we can build. And that's what you call hyper personalization at scale. You can actually get super personalized, but at scale and reach, help deliver that right. So it's a mix. I mean, I would say the base is always the audience base, right? And that's where the journey starts. You're trying to reach to the right audience, and then the technology helps enable that.
Got it. So it's not an either or, right?
It's not an either or.
Literally like saying you need to make sure you have all your ingredients, or there's going to be something missing in what you're
100%.
eating, what you're tasting.
Yeah.
Right. So Sudarshan, I'm going to come back to you and ask you to tell us a little more about the audiences that we're talking about. The conversation is all about the right algorithm plus the right audience is what delivers performance. So could you tell us a little about how with commerce audiences, right? And dig a little deeper, possibly in a few examples, saying how do we enable brands to grow with commerce audiences? I mean, is this going to be really different? If I'm a D2C brand and I'm starting up, what would this mean to me? Versus if I'm one of those large brands who is large across the board, and digital is still one of those channels that it's good to do, but is not going to break my entire company. Is there a difference in the way I should look for it? How are we as Flipkart ads, how are we enabling choices of the right audiences through the funnel? Because a D2C brand is dependent, or if I'm starting off, I'm dependent on commerce very differently. It has to do the full funnel for me. Whereas if I'm a brand who's been advertising for the past few decades, chances are that even the men on this call know about a particular, feminine hygiene product. It could be, but and my expectations are different. So what does it mean? How are we helping brands choose the right audiences, and how should they look at it? I know it's a long drawn question, but
So I'll try and break it down, right? So I think to come to the last part of what you said, right? How does it differ between brands that have been super established over the last several decades versus the new kids on the block, right? Particularly D2C being the flavor of the year so far. And I think that's where the beauty of commerce audiences comes in. It has enough relevance for large brands to say that this cohort or these users, right, are relevant for me because I know they can put their money where their mouth is and transact, right? And hence, perhaps I can still continue doing my top funnel conversations with them using that audience, right? And possibly talking to them through, let's say, the product performance ads piece that we have with Criteo, right? So I can still do a top funnel targeting there to a very relevant audience that actually transacts. When it comes to D2C, less money available to build brand, but whatever money is available has to go towards lower funnel and performance, right? That's where I can help them with the fact that, you know what, the same hypothesis, right? People are spending on the platform, right? And hence we can help you find adjacencies as to why your product would resonate with them, right? But let's focus on more lower funnel messaging. Okay. But I think at Flipkart, we also have that obligation to ensure that we keep bringing in newer and newer audiences, right? To ensure that we keep enriching this pool, right? So simple example, we all know that the metros are pretty much doing very well across e-commerce marketplaces for all platforms that are out there. But we know that the next wave of growth, and we're already seeing this in Flipkart before everybody else, is the fact that non-metros, which is tier 2s and below, are those markets which are going to explode in the next couple of years' time, right? Now, the important thing is, am I as Flipkart creating adequate opportunities for people to come to my platform and figure out a way or a point of entry, right? And the way we see it is, we see it as voice, vernacular, and immersive experiences like AR, VR. Right? So voice, because I don't possibly have a very literate population out there in a village, but you know what, I can still get you what you want through Flipkart because voice will help you get it, right? Vernacular, English is not the only language. We already have another 11 languages out there, which you can basically leverage. AR, VR, product demo, right? For instance, can be done through that. Engagement with a brand can be done through that for long, several minutes. Imagine someone spending several minutes engaging with your brand. Right, which can help you not only with upper funnel, but also lower funnel. So I think we are doing so many things here to ensure that we keep getting more and more people in. And hence, I think we can confidently say that we are in a position now to have a audience cut, right, for every use case that might exist, right? If we don't, and someone in the audience feels we don't, please type out the question. We'll get back to you. We'll tell you how we'll solve it. Right, but the point is, we have an audience cut that can resonate for any brand out there. All right. Now, when it comes to the brand side of things, there is enough and more opportunity, right, from creative to insights that are provided on how you can basically talk to a relevant audience. All right. So I think we're kind of doing all this to ensure that we not only churn the existing audience, but get fresh audiences on board. And now that we have more and more people coming to the platform because of additional capabilities we're adding, right, it becomes more and more relevant for more use cases for brands to basically engage on the platform with users and off platform through PPA, etc. Right. So I think that, broadly speaking, has a very large focus for us.
Interesting. You also touched upon, the consumer journey and what it means for the consumer journey. And I mean, my next question is to both of you, and Taran, I'd request you to probably answer this first. So what's in this for the consumer? Is there a consumer benefit from the fact that the audience targeting, because this is something that's been debated a lot, which is why I'm bringing it up in this conversation as well, saying what does it mean for the consumer and how is it going to therefore address possibly my need or what I'm trying to do? All of us on the internet today, our attention spans are just shrinking. This is true for content, and this is possibly accelerating even more for advertising, right? Because everyone's trying to reach me across every touch point and every screen, irrespective of size. I think for most consumers, both the attention span as well as the willingness to spend their mind space along with their money is shrinking. So is there a benefit also for the consumer? And that's that makes it compelling enough for a brand to consider. Because as brands, I mean, it's a responsibility of the brand to not be intrusive, to not simply torture someone. So
yeah, I think great question. I think advertising served well actually enhances a consumer's experience. In our experience, and this is like, what we've seen is, especially with the DCO plus technology, where we are able to hyper-personalize the communication basis, it could be small things like the color of an outfit or a shoe or a product, or, very personalized way of selling. We've actually seen an increase by almost 30-31% in engagement, because people would want to engage with advertising which is relevant to them. So advertising served at the right way, right messaging, right format definitely enhances the user's experience. It's more effective because they feel that they're getting served something which they're looking for. And more importantly, from a brand's point of view, it builds deeper engagement. They're going to have users coming and visiting, exploring their products. They're going to have users coming and buying their products. And at the end of the day, I mean, those are, very significant outcomes from a brand's point of view by serving the relevant ads. That's where machine learning, the algorithms come into play, because that's what when advertising served well, it just overall increases the experience, both from a user's point of view and a brand's point of view. So, I would say yes, to your question, it's totally on the technology of how it's served.
Yeah, no, I think, just to take on from what I think Taran articulated it perfectly, right? So I think we strongly believe that, as Taran mentioned, right, advertising that is personalized and relevant will always complement your experience, right? So let me give you a personal example. I won't take the brand's name, but right, there's a shoe brand which has just kind of burst onto the scene in India, right? And they've been giving me very, very immersive experiences in whatever platform I'm actually browsing, right? Whether it's news, social media, open internet, video. And what's interesting is in the last 6 to 7 weeks, I've bought 4 or 5 pairs, right? Because the interesting bit is they've somehow managed to provide that hook to me. I don't know, it's kind of nice to see they've understood what kind of SKUs I'm interested in, etc. So I've actually gone ahead and transacted, right? And what is interesting is if you look at the user experience, I've actually spent a lot of time clicking on the ad, going to their website or going to their product page on Flipkart to see what are the other SKUs they have, so I can actually, maybe look at buying them sometime in the future, right? And they're super comfortable as well, so that kind of adds to the overall thing. So when you look at the user experience, as Taran said, it's an enriched experience, and you don't mind seeing something like that which you resonate with. Now, when I look at the brand side, right, if I get deeper and deeper into understanding the audience, right, and then show them a relevant ad, right, it effectively means that I can generate more and more meaningful insights about the audience I'm targeting. Right. So I think this is a win-win. The users don't feel intruded upon, and brands get relevant data to basically work off for future campaigns and continue to turn that wheel of ROAS that they possibly are looking at, or probably get feedback on what part of the upper funnel I need to spend more attention to, and probably work on that. Right. So absolutely, I think the answer is yes. I think it enhances the user experience. It's not an intrusion when it's actually, I wouldn't say tailored, but I would say personalized for you.
I mean, just to add to what Sudarshan's saying, we've been, we announced our partnership. It's been a little, I think, over 5 months now. We've taken the proposition. And obviously, initial 2-3 months, we started with a few test campaigns to learn about, how better we could enhance. But looking at recently, it's September, when you had a really great sales period going on, with enough learning now coming on from a machine learning point of view, AI point of view, I mean, there are categories where we are delivering ROAS higher than the market benchmarks. And that kind of just talks about the ability of, with the right audiences, very discerning audiences, you build in the right technology, it would deliver the right results, especially also in a very high, I would say, volume, decibel environment where, you have 50 brands trying to talk to a user.
Taran, could you tell us a little more, or rather, could you tell our audiences a little more about the partnership between Criteo and Flipkart? I mean, I'm sure Sudarshan will add to, how we have seen response to audience.
Definitely. I mean, Criteo, I mean, we are one of the largest, the commerce media platform across the world. We work with many retailers. We have almost over 725 million DAUs, daily active users. We work across, 4 billion product SKUs, 3,500 product categories. So, we come with an immense experience of running campaigns across commerce audiences. So when, Sankalp and I started talking last year on how could we possibly build a partnership which could drive more value back to an advertiser, I mean, this was a great opportunity. I mean, Flipkart is one of the largest, e-com platforms in India, and combining it with the capabilities which Criteo could get, which are world-class capabilities on technology which we could help enhance experiences for advertisers and help Flipkart monetize their first party audiences across the open internet, driving further value to an advertiser. I think seemed like a win-win situation. We obviously started working on certain use cases. There are 4-5 primarily use cases which are in terms of helping endemic and non-endemic brands drive either performance or traffic or conversion across on Flipkart landing pages or on brand.com. So there's a very robust value proposition which has been created. Sudarshan obviously is leading the entire effort from a market point of view, and he and his team are managing the customer experience and onboarding clients. What I'm really happy to see is the way the product started to perform, the way the product started to scale, and more importantly, I think delivering more than higher benchmarks than what the market is used to seeing on ROAS and ROI across categories, I think is very heartening. My sense is this is just the beginning, and I think this is going to take the commerce media advertising in India to the next level in the years to come.
Yeah, no, I think the Taran's absolutely right. And, I think Taran brought up a very interesting point here, basically across endemic and non-endemic brands, right? So endemic obviously are brands that sell on Flipkart, non-endemic are those that don't. And what we've interestingly seen is that this audience pool, coupled with the capabilities that Criteo brings to the table, also has unlocked tremendous value for the non-endemic players as well. Right. So for instance, I transact on Flipkart and effectively, am I someone who a auto category would find interesting as an audience? Definitely, because you're transacting on e-commerce. I wouldn't say that's in this day and age, super evolved behavior. Many people do it, and we have 200 million MAUs as well. But rather than having some sort of other way in arriving at a fact that who is my relevant audience, I think this is basically the very basic stage at which you start with. Are they transacting online, right? Then I can build the other blocks to say, how is this audience cohort relevant for an auto category, a BFSI category, etc. The other point which Taran mentioned is on brands that have already tried the product, right? And there have been several brands now. I mean, we have a very large Rolodex, but just to give you simple examples, we basically run campaigns across everything from CPG to auto to electronics, right, to apparel. And what we're seeing is when it comes to the endemic categories, we're seeing an increase in ROAS by up to 20 to 30% over what was traditionally delivered when they did similar buys without this integration, right? So I think we're squeezing that lemon a little bit more, very important in this day and age, considering that there is, I wouldn't say recession signs, but it's the fear of recession that's kind of setting in. Right. It's always better to have a fear of recession than a real recession. So we feel hopefully we'll tide over that quickly. But interestingly, I think there is a lot of positive movement here. And I think, given that we're 6 months in, the pilots are done and now we've started to see scale coming in. Right. So I think the biggest question that we wanted to answer during the pilot phase is how relevant can this arrangement be to your larger business objectives, right? And the answer was, let's do a pilot first and then we'll figure. We've done the pilots and now we've got very, very good mass adoption that is happening.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on, like, Sudarshan spoke at the beginning, how do you build more efficiency? I mean, at the end of the day, every marketer, and especially with, certain amount of macroeconomic pressures, which are forecasted, marketers are going to get more and more stricter about their KPIs, their metrics, the numbers they want to chase. What Criteo and Flipkart's been able to do together is build that efficiency out and build that efficiency out at scale. So, helping marketers reach that in a very efficient way, very impactful way, and get their dollar to do more for them, I think is a winning proposition, is what I feel.
So again, back to both of you, and Sudarshan, I'm going to ask you this one first. I mean, it's obviously called product performance ads because based on all that you've just told our audience, its ability to deliver across the funnel is fantastic. But what does this really mean for a media planner today? You spoke about going past the stage of pilots. So if I'm a media planner, which I used to be, But if I'm a media planner, how do I consider this, right? Should I use this to start complementing an overall awareness plan? Should I, look at this as a separate line that runs by itself? Is this, you're right. Everyone's looking at an upcoming recession next year. I mean, you open you open any business daily, irrespective of which country you're in, and it's just, the degree of recession expectations seem to vary. Should I be planning for this and choosing this as a silver bullet today? How does this work?
Oh, absolutely. So, okay, the way I would look at it is, well, silver bullet or not, I think media planning involves a lot of trial and piloting, right? And I'm happy to say that with large brands, we've already done that, right? Now, if you look at the ultimate render in the way that a campaign is set up using the PPA arrangement we have with Criteo, we're not asking brands to do anything that they're not already doing, right? They do run video on OTTs. They do run display on the open internet, right? And all we're telling them is that, hey, you know what? There is this additional piece of integration that we've done with Criteo using their algorithm, which, by the way, everybody knows about as being super efficient, super clever, and using that data that we have. When the two come together, effectively, we're doing basically the same thing that planners were eventually putting in their plans, but a little better, right? So I don't think this will supplement. I think this will replace, right, the older way of buying, right? Because there's no point in doing two different ways of display, right? We're able to build in that efficiency. We're able to build in that outcome. Now, product performance ads, because we have performance in the name, performance can mean KPIs that are achieved at any level of the funnel. Right? It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to sell X units and deliver a certain ROAS. Yes, that's the ultimate endeavor, is to help brands capitalize and sell and close the sale, right? But the point is, we should be able to run that. So silver bullet, we'd like to hope that it is, right? But if you've not piloted this, and this is mainly for the audience, you must, because it's been running very well. It's been driving very good KPIs for large brands and small brands alike, right? But from a media planner perspective, I think this is the absolutely perfect scenario, because you just have to slot this in and slot out something that you are not doing, as efficiently before. And ultimately, your buys will be the same. Your placements will be more or less the same. It's just that the audience that we bring to the table are different, right? And I think the definition of a media planner, I think, should change to audience planner now, because we need to find that audience wherever they are, right? Rather than just saying, I'm going to place X banners on this website or that app, right? So I think that has to also evolve.
Yeah,
and
I
we're
think
happy to do that with.
No, absolutely. I think Sudarshan's bang on. I think in our experience, what we've seen, and this is globally what we're seeing, is that more and more marketers and media planners are actually now trying to work, instead of trying to spread themselves too thin and trying to explore too many things. Actually, our advice is to work with the largest commerce data set, work with the best tech possible, because that's what is going to deliver you scale and efficiency. And what we are happy to see is that this partnership actually has created that opportunity in India for marketers to dip into. We're not talking about a niche platform. Flipkart is massive. It's one of the largest, with a very, very huge audience base. And we're talking about Criteo's world-class capabilities, helping, reach that audience. So today, I think this is a proposition which could be looked at standalone. Why we are confident about this is because over the last 5 months, like Sudarshan said, it's not just a particular client or two clients or two categories. We've tested this out across multiple categories, various cohorts, whether from CPGs down till mobile phones. It's been amazing and it's very encouraging to see how performance has just kept on increasing. And this is very heartening to see, I would say.
It's an interesting thought about how in an open internet environment, right, you can be media agnostic and still find the audience you're trying to catch and walk them through the funnel. Yeah. I mean, both of you have really explained the importance of getting your audiences right. The media, it's there, it's easy enough to buy. Any specific success stories that you want to talk about of the kind of brands? I mean, you've mentioned different categories, but are there any specific examples, Sudarshan, you want to give our audience so it helps build confidence that no matter what your size, we possibly can build something that works? Because I mean, otherwise, you and I are both digital consumers. We pretty much work in the same company. Chances are neither of us are going to have the same media profile in what we consume.
Oh, absolutely. So I think from a results perspective, as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing a 20 to 30% improvement in ROAS, right? If I was to break this down into maybe two examples of specific categories, right? The apparel, we did a campaign, I think very earlier on as a pilot, and then that's kind of continued now for an apparel brand. Right. And what was interesting to see is, we can't give away the name because we're still waiting for clearances from them. But what is interesting is they're not a very large brand that's in your face with billions of dollars to spend on marketing. Right. They're an India-based brand. They're a smaller brand. And we saw that they effectively managed to get a 20% enhancement in the ROAS that they had originally targeted. Right. What also happened was we found, and obviously we kind of took audiences back to the Flipkart product page and obviously got audiences to transact there. So a 20% enhancement there. To flip it completely, a confectionery brand has seen a 30% improvement, right? On a very, very high-end chocolate brand, right? Which is there. So what is interesting to see here is that this particular brand, on the confectionery side has everything from a very small SKU, which is a very small piece of chocolate, all the way up to an expensive brand. And we've actually consistently seen enhanced results across the board, right? And that's actually led them to become one of the largest users of the PPA solution, right? So apparel on one side, confectionery on the other, mobiles is doing very well, right? So as I said, 20 to 30% enhancement is what we're seeing. Right. So good times ahead for sure.
I think the good indicator to look at it is, Radhika, if you have a brand or a customer who month on month increases their spend and keeps coming back, I think it's working. Especially in the performance space, campaigns get paused every day if you don't deliver. I think what is really heartening to see is all the campaigns which you've been running, all of them have become always on advertisers, and they're only increasing their budgets. I think the product's working for them.
Thank you for that. So where we are today with PPA, with commerce audiences, with Flipkart ads and the partnership that we have with Criteo is a step and it's really a step change in the evolution of how you're trying to reach folks, irrespective of where you're trying to reach out to them, but making sure it's relevant. I'd like to invite parting thoughts from both of you on where you think this is headed next, for brands. They still, some brands have gone from experimental to always on stages of their campaigns, but that's still not everyone out there, right? It's still not been tried in the way social media has been tried, or in the way programmatic per se has been tried. So parting thoughts, and Taran, Sudarshan, on how commerce advertising and solutions like PPA are going to evolve further, and how they're going to help address the needs of both the consumer as well as the brand. Taran,
Yeah, sure. I think, Radhika, this is going to be the fastest growing ad space. From a commerce audience point of view, the way I look at it. And this is not only India, but across the world, we're seeing that trend. If you look at America, which is the largest advertising market, today you have people like Target, Macy, Bloomingdale's. All of them are seeing massive increase in, the share of wallet where it comes to advertising, and it only is growing. We are seeing similar trends across in Japan, in Europe, Asia, and obviously within India also. Even if you look at it, if my numbers are correct, I think we're seeing an increase of 30% ad revenue year on year going up when it comes to the commerce space. Commerce, it's no longer just another line item on a media plan. I think it's mainstream. The way I see it is, yes, there was a time when search came in, and then there was social. But I think the now and the road ahead is mostly commerce audience is what I see growing the fastest. Why? Because of intent-based audiences. and most importantly, people in market to buy products. Secondly, you're also talking about, using many signals, whether in terms of purchasing parity, power, you're looking at many aspects. And if you can build proper, personalized communication around it, that's going to grow. Third most important thing is commerce advertising satisfies the full funnel of marketing. Whether you're running video ads from a brand awareness point of view and leading a user down till conversion, metrics can be tracked. Today, if you look at it, tracking is becoming one of the most important aspects for a marketer. How do you measure your effectiveness of your campaign? And commerce audiences and commerce platforms today are actually helping build the right measurement for brands for the dollar they're spending. I see massive growth. I see massive opportunity. And like I said, from a user's point of view, it only enhances the experience. And that's why if you look at commerce advertising, it increases engagement by almost 31% in the market. So people obviously like the ads they're getting served, and that's why they're clicking more. And that's where they're actually buying more. And that's the way I see it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, perfect.
Sudarshan, before you do answer this, we had a poll which I should have asked before I let Taran speak, but we do have a poll for the audience because we'd really like to understand their appetite. I mean, we believe that everyone's using programmatic today in the right way and everyone's using programmatic and this will enhance their experience. But we're also, I mean, if we were to speak to people, which we do, we know different people are in different parts of the journey. So we do have a poll for the audience, which I would request our organizers to bring up. And Sudarshan, back to you.
Sure, perfect. No, so I think to take a leaf out of what Taran mentioned, right? Here's a bold statement, right? Commerce advertising is no longer a line item in the media plan. I think the time has come for it to be the media plan. Okay. And let me take a step back and look at the chronology of things. I think many of us here have been in the digital ecosystem for a very long time, right? So I started in 2011. I think 2011, 2012 is when SEM had begun in a big way, right? Advertisers started taking it seriously. So I think search kind of came out at that time. And of course, yeah, we did have struggles trying to sell it to customers, etc. But now it's synonymous, right? We then had YouTube, which came in, or video that came in 2013 and onwards. We then had social media and programmatic in 2015, 2016. Commerce advertising's time has come now, right? It's as simple as that, right? Now, what is interesting is that commerce advertising in India this year, I'm not talking 5 years hence or 2 years hence, this year will be in excess of $1 billion. All right. And this $1 billion effectively is obviously a very large sum. But as Taran mentioned earlier as well, we're going to see commerce advertising outstripping the growth of the entire digital spending that's happening at a media perspective. Right. So it's going to be that component within digital that's going to grow the fastest. And imagine it's going to grow on a base of $1 billion, right? Now look at it, few years down the line, digital is going to be 50% plus of the overall market. And you've got this one critical component, which is growing faster than everything else, right? I think it is effectively something that the time has come. I think it's time for everyone to take it seriously, jump onto the bandwagon. As I said, it's relevant for endemic, non-endemic brands, right? So it's something that I think is very relevant to any sort of plan that any brand has going forward. Think of it as, you know, the next version of what you need to do when you're planning how to reach out to your customers, right? So I think that's where I really see it, right? But and we're pushing hard every day to try and see that agencies and clients effectively, at least pilot and try before they scale, and we're seeing very encouraging results there.
Fantastic. So thank you both for your time. Before I let you go though, there are 2 audience questions that we'd like to take. There are a few, but they're 2 very specific ones. Just for the audience here, we're going to focus our questions around commerce advertising using programmatic. That's around the product performance ads solution that we have with the Criteo team, right? Which is why for all your questions around advertising on Flipkart, we'd suggest you reach out to us separately. So of the first question, right, and I'm going to like pretty much open it up to both of you. How can, if I'm a non-endemic brand, that is, I don't, right? This question says I'm a brand, if I'm a brand, that doesn't retail on Flipkart? Is this still relevant for me?
100%.
And why?
Okay, so I'll tell you why. Like today, you're a category who doesn't sell on Flipkart because it's not available. It could be many reasons, but that does not take away the power of the value of the audience Flipkart has, right? And if you can actually reach out to that audience in the right way, right messaging, and also drive the traffic back to your own digital asset, that's massive value which is being created back to you. Because that's also creating your own first party data. And that's helping you actually build your CRM, you could build messaging, you could actually get to learn a bit more about audiences. That's the value for non-endemic brands. And at the end of the day, like Sudarshan and we've been speaking about, commerce audience is no longer just another line item. I mean, this is a substantial way of looking at media planning. This is a very, very important segment to look at, to consider, and which cannot be ignored. So whether you're endemic on Flipkart, we're present there or not present there, it doesn't take away the value of that audience which Flipkart offers.
Oh, absolutely. So I think Taran has covered most of it, right? So I think it's effectively, as I said, right, it's not a question of media placement being on PPA, which is basically open internet, OTT, etc. Right? It's about the audience, right? You're buying an audience, you're not buying a placement, right? That's as we used to call it, that's traditional digital buying, right? Where I want to see my ad on the masthead of the first website that I open. The point is, it's the audience, it's the quality of the audience, right? And hence, I think it's let's take an example of an auto brand. It would be better for an auto brand to look at, let's say, an audience which has transacted on a platform like Flipkart, rather and then we obviously show them, let's say, an ad when they access a news app or a website, take them to their website and get them to fill out a lead form, right? Versus doing a basic, interest, age, gender targeting with some basic, additional layers and asking them to come to the website and fill a form. I can bet my money on this. The audience, which is a transacting audience base, will always convert better, right? And we've been seeing that, right? So I think that's where endemic brands can definitely profit off of the fact that there is relevant data, actionable data of people taking certain actions on the platform, right? Rather than just pulling down a few drop downs and saying, okay, you know what, this is the audience I'm going to go after.
Fantastic. And that brings us to the last question. I think we're just about in the nick of time. And I'm going to take this one, saying, okay, what do large brands demand, right? And I'm going to assume by this question, the person means that, by large brands, legacy brands or brands who've been around for a while, who've used all touch points. What do they expect when they come to us, when they try commerce advertising with our audiences in the open internet? Do you see a difference in what they come with? What do they expect, and what should they really expect? Is that really in alignment of what we offer and what they will get out of our campaigns? So I know I'm not addressed this to either. Sudarshan, do you want to go first?
Sure.
I'd like parting thoughts from Taran too.
Okay, so I think when it comes to any sort of the first thing is that I think the outcomes more or less remain, or the desired outcomes of a campaign kind of remain more or less the same, irrespective of the media, right? But here's what I would hazard a guess, right? So I think what we've been doing with large brands, particularly in the FMCG space, are twofold. One is there are certain brand metrics to move, which we've been working with them on, right? And it's interesting that we've got some very tough briefs during the pilot phases, and fortunately we've prevailed in many of them, right? And the second piece is, e-commerce marketplaces effectively are an extension of sales for them, right? 95 to 96% of sales are still offline for a lot of these legacy brands, right? So what we've done effectively is we've tried to enhance that purchase experience for users online, right? Thereby giving them an alternate channel to sell, right? That's effectively what e-commerce is about, right? And how can I keep building that more and more year on year, etc.? is the other piece that we've kind of been driving. So coming back, I'm sorry, I know we've repeated this a couple of times, but when large brands come to us, we know that they naturally gravitate more towards upper funnel because there's a huge element of television with a lot of them, right? And hence the first conversations we have out the window is, hey, you know what? I need to drive my consideration, my TOMA, right? But at the same time, I'm also selling on Flipkart. Is there something we can do there as well? So that in a sense is true full funnel, which we've been driving.
I mean, I totally second that. It's like most large brands want to build a full funnel, marketing channel in terms of, not only understanding the user journey, but also making sure they're reaching and building that awareness with the right people. I think more importantly, we've tried out, tested out. We've also run a lot of, I would say, brand awareness recall campaigns. We've done brand lift studies to measure the success and outcomes of how it works. I think they work very well. So satisfying the basic reach and frequency needs for any media plans for most of the larger brands, reaching out to the right audiences, helping drive a full funnel measurement, loop for them, and a closed loop measurement in terms of how effectively the advertising is working. I think those are the key aspects which most of the large brands look forward to, outside what already Sudarshan's covered. And we are really happy to say, and very confident to say, that this partnership's actually delivering to all those aspects. And, we are very, very super excited about the fact that this is only going to grow bigger.
Thank you, Taran, and thank you, Sudarshan, for making time today. And to our audience, we've had over 100 people at any point of time. We would like you to take away the fact that in today's age and time, if most of us are commerce consumers, chances are that a few 100 million others like us, to reach the right folks in the right way, if you're not planning as a combination of, of audiences along with the algorithm, then you're probably missing out, right? So thank you both for the conversation, for the discussion, and we look forward to doing this more often.
Thank you, Radhika. Thank you, Sudarshan.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Rudrashish, back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Pooja, for this great, for doing such a great session, and making it so interesting for everyone. Yeah, of course, and I would also like to thank our speakers, for sharing your insights on the evolution of targeting within a growing digital universe in India. And also thank you to the audience for joining and being engaged with interesting questions. And I do hope you'll have a lot to take away from the discussion today. But before we close, I would like to touch upon our upcoming event. So let me just share screen here and take you to my deck once again. So so this is the Data Unplugged event, the second edition of it, which MMA is organizing on the 16th of November at Taj Lands and in Mumbai. And we would like the audience and the speakers also to try and make it to this event, which is aimed at powering marketeers with the best understanding of the evolving data landscape, building winning data strategies, and building data-centric organizations to drive better business outcomes and customer experiences. We are also sharing the link, the registration link in the chat window for you to register and join this. It's a invite by only kind of an event, and we would look forward to you registering for this event for the 16th of November at Taj Lands in Mumbai. And yes, I would also like to touch upon our recently launched MMA reports on data privacy and the second edition of the MarTech playbook. The chat, the link for it is again available on the chat window, and you could also scan the QR code that you see on the screen to be able to download these interesting reports. Till then, for more updates on MMA, do follow us on our social handles or visit our website, mmaglobal.com, and stay updated on the key insights and updates from MMA in this way. And yes, thank you once again, and have a lovely evening and a very happy Diwali to all. Thank you.